Namaste, my friends. So this is a very special vlog today because this is to celebrate that there are 15,000 of you guys out there subscribing to my channel. I mean, just seriously, wow. That is a huge number for me, even though I realize that that is still a small-time YouTuber. But 15,000, that's almost as much as the population of my hometown in Finland. So, I mean, just like, mind blown. And I thought that to celebrate this milestone, it would be fun to do something for you guys. And what would be more fun than to let you, my friends out there, to ask me the questions for this vlog. And there were so many questions and some really interesting ones. So I'm really trying my hardest to answer each one of those questions in this vlog, even though that might be quite impossible. Okay, firstly, Pranjal Mulgar is hoping that I can share my experience on adapting to new city and culture and people when I moved here. And well, obviously that is a very challenging thing coming from a completely different culture. I would say that my key in this is that instead of judging the new culture and people, I really try to understand what the new place is all about. So I've been trying to read and study a lot about India and its history and culture. I keep asking a lot of questions from my husband, who very patiently explains things to me. And then obviously the key factor is time, because even if you understand some things, it's very difficult to adjust to those. But through time, it just gets so much easier to handle. And anyways, I've always loved India, so I've been very committed into making this kind of adaptation in my life. Tubeshare asks, how did we guys meet and how was our wedding experience with Indian in-laws and family? And like I said, the whole love story will be a completely different vlog, but I can already say in short that we met online and our first date was at the Delhi airport, where we then spent a few days in Delhi before we traveled to Himachal and a Spiti road trip. And our wedding experience, unfortunately, we did not get to celebrate with my family or Vinod's family here in India. That's a completely different lengthy story. We had a very small court wedding in Visakhapatnam where we just had a couple of friends as witnesses and then went to have a lunch after the ceremony, which was just us writing the paper. Jiku asks, what excites me the most? Is it visiting places or interacting with locals? I have to say that obviously it's a combination between both of those. I love nature and especially how much diverse nature I get to see in India. But obviously I would not be so enthusiastic about all the traveling if I didn't get to interact with locals, because I just really want to get to know India and its culture, history, and the way of life. And when I say way of life, I mean like the real authentic life in India instead of the like crowded tourist places, even though those are fun sometimes too. But for me, one of the most fun things is definitely interacting with locals. Then Akash Ukil asks if I had any misconceptions that got diluted after my stay in India. And obviously, yes, I have to say that a Western, quite common misconception about India is that it's just full of trash. And of course, there are lots of those kinds of areas here too, but there is just so much of incredible, beautiful, pure nature also, and that is something that completely blew my mind away. And then I guess that we also often tend to see poor people as likely scammers and criminals, but again, I think that some of the most golden, genuine-hearted people in India are from the less privileged poor classes, and I have never experienced such kindness that I have with these local people who just like live in very simple dwellings and with so much less than most of the people, at least in the West. Then Ashwika asks, what are the major difficulties that I have faced in India? And I would have to say that the number one would be getting accepted as first my boyfriend's partner and later on as wife, and being welcomed to India in that role. And of course, like homesickness is something that I often really battle with, because it is really excruciating being so far away from family and friends and my own culture, especially during some unfortunate family events that I've experienced in the past couple of years. So that is definitely a major challenge for me. And then Ashwika also asked if I like the Indian or Finnish culture more, and said that I can be honest. And well, honestly, I think that pretty much everyone would probably agree with me that of course their like native culture that they've grown up in and spent most of their life in is the dearest to them. So I would have to say that I prefer the Finnish culture, but that isn't to say that I don't love the Indian culture too. And I think that it would be just amazing to be able to kind of match the best sides of both Finnish and Indian cultures, because then you would have a perfect culture. Then Shreya Patel asks me, when nature calls, it is difficult there due to the restrooms being so dreadful that she has even cried a few times. So how do I manage over here in India when I'm traveling through villages? In India, I'm very happy about the squat toilets whenever I'm traveling. So I just try to not breathe while I'm in the restroom, and then I just do my business in the squat toilet, and then just do my best to clean up very, very well after the visit. But I seriously think that the traditional squat toilet system is the most hygienic one for traveling, and I don't even mind doing my business in the nature. Mohan BN asks, have I faced any reverse cultural shock when I have reached my city in Finland? And not that much. It's pretty easy to always kind of just like slide back to my native culture, but there are a few surprising things that kind of shock me every time I go back to my country. And the first one is the traffic, because somehow I always get so used to the left side of traffic here in India that I just completely forget the fact that, oh yes, in Finland it is right-sided. So I just like go into very weird directions and turns, and I haven't driven a car in a long time in Finland, and maybe that's for the best. Oh yes, and then another thing is that because I don't get to use my native language Finnish so much in India, so every time I go back to Finland it starts feeling so weird on my tongue and in my mouth when I start speaking Finnish, so that's another shock for me. Ras126 asks, do I have some principles that I live by? I would say that I do my best to understand where different people are coming from, and as long as they don't hurt other people, I try to accept them as they are, and I try my very best to be honest and kind to the world around me. And then also he asks if I'm an introvert or extrovert. It kind of depends on the situation. So I would say that I'm more of an ambivert, which is a mix between the two. I'm definitely much more extroverted than my husband. I do enjoy small social occasions and getting to know new people and chatting with friends and so on. But also social interactions tend to quickly take away my energy. So I also need a lot of alone time to kind of charge my batteries and just enjoy the silence and being me. Astronaut Nestor asks if I have celebrated Onam yet, and if not, am I interested to do so this time? I have not celebrated Onam. I have seen My Sweet Dharma's Onam celebrations on Instagram many times, and I've always thought that, oh, that seems like an interesting festival. And obviously I was looking forward to celebrating Onam this year, but I highly doubt that during these COVID times we would be participating in those celebrations very much. But hopefully next year. And then Nestar also asks, how is the experience of a Haryanvi guy in Kerala, and does Vinod Bhaiya like Kerala? He likes Kerala very, very much. And I guess in a way it's much easier for him to kind of survive here because so many people think that he is actually a Mallu. I guess he looks like one or something. It's maybe the beard, I don't exactly know facial features. But then also there are times when it gets really frustrating to him because people expect that, oh yes, he's a Mallu, he speaks Malayalam, but obviously even I speak Malayalam more than him because I can pronounce words such as Alapura Korikod, and I can yell the place names like the local bus drivers. But people expect Vinod to talk Malayalam, and when he doesn't, they seem to think that, oh, he's just like some snob who just like refuses to talk in his local language, and then he has to like keep trying to apologetically explain, and eventually like, oh, but he's from North India, he's Haryanvi, and even then people are like, oh, but just a little bit of Malayalam? No, not at all. Himanshu Singh asks, what major differences I have caused about the lifestyle of Indian and European or Finnish people. I guess in some ways people in India are much more laid back than people in Finland, where we have a very, very punctual culture that emphasizes efficiency, and we try not to use too much time into doing things. And in Finland, if you are not able to handle your job in the 8-hour working day, you're thought like, okay, there's something wrong with you, you're not supposed to do overwork. But then in India, people usually tend to just like work such long hours, and not even because like they necessarily need it to survive, but just because like they're trying to give the appearance to their superiors that, oh yes, I'm working hard, even if you don't really have anything to do. And of course then one major difference is how much closer the families and even like larger communities are here in India. Maybe not in the biggest metros or anything, but I would say that in the like more traditional towns and villages, and even in many areas of cities, you have this like close-knit housing society, very close families, and you are like always expected to be there for each other, like no questions asked. Then Kerala Diaries has quite many questions here. How would I feel if I became a celebrity all of a sudden? Becoming a celebrity is not a goal at all to me. I think I would feel like shocked, disbelief, but I like these more like private moments where I get to focus on one person. And instead of becoming a celebrity, I'd rather be known for a good job that I do. So obviously I'd be more than happy if I have a huge audience here on my YouTube, but I think being a celebrity is a little bit of a different thing. Or what do you think? Also, Kerala Diaries knows that I am humble, but how strong am I? And how was I able to become a strong lady? First, I want to start off by saying that back in the day when I was doing CrossFit, I was able to deadlift 130 kilos, but then due to some illnesses, I had to give that up. But even to this day, I can still deadlift, I think, 75 kilos. So that's how strong I am. I think that you become strong by living your life and getting a diverse collection of experiences. Obviously, I know that I'm very privileged in life, so I would not want to say that I have had it as tough as many poor and less privileged people, for example, in India, but I have had many challenging, very tough experiences in my personal life when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and even to these days. And I guess that just by living through those and trying to kind of mentally handle those, asking for help when I need it from professionals, from family and friends, and then just seeing that time does heal and I can survive any kind of tough experiences that life has thrown at me. That's the thing that makes one strong. How deep is my love for my husband? I don't know, how do you measure how deep is one's love? I can only say that in my personal case, he is my soulmate and I can't imagine life with anyone else, even if we had issues, even if we hadn't like won our battles in life and ended up together and married. I can't imagine that I would want to spend my life with anyone else. And I left my country and my culture, family and friends, my career, my nice home in Finland behind me, and I moved all the way to the other side of the world into a very different place and started my life all over. So I would say that my love is pretty deep. AM555 asks, what is my favorite Indian dessert and my favorite Finnish dessert? Very important question here, and by far my favorite Indian dessert is gajar ka halwa, sometimes even maybe with a little scoop of vanilla ice cream. Another favorite would be, I think, nariyal barfi. And in Finland, it again depends a little bit on the season. I would say that my favorites are traditional Finnish pancakes with strawberries and ice cream, or especially in the winter, cinnamon buns, which are very different compared to the ones that you find in the German bakeries here in India. Ank Mishra asks, what are my future plans for living in India? At least for now, I can't see a time when we wouldn't be living in India. I just don't always know where that would be. At least for the next few years, I hope it is in Kerala. And maybe once we retire or something like that, or at some point in our lives, we would be able to be in such a situation where we have enough money to be able to live maybe half a year in Finland and half of it in India. But we will see. I don't see us not being in India for a very long time. Then Raju Aidulapuram asks, how do I see this 15k follower thing as an achievement or a milestone? If I feel like I should transform into a full-time YouTuber with more interesting content. Of course, because in a creative field like this, it's not just about how I see my job, and I don't have a boss to give me feedback. So getting to these kinds of numbers, it gives me validation for the effort and time and work that I put into this vlog, that I have so many people out there interested in what I do and share. So this means the world to me, seriously. And I don't know what Raju means by saying if I plan to do like some more interesting content. If it means that it's not interesting at the moment, I'm sorry to disappoint, but this is exactly the kind of content that I wish to make in the future too. Traveling will commence again once it's safe, and even so, I'm sharing my everyday life in India, how we are mixing our two cultures, and what I learn and experience in the Indian culture. And yes, hopefully at some point when the traveling commences again, I also hope to show more local people and various good works, NGOs and charities on my channel. But other than that, this is pretty much how I plan to proceed. Of course, I hope to grow, but I'm not into like that kind of growth mindset. I will be very happy if it happens, but even at this point, I'm already feeling so blessed that I have this channel for myself. Vipil Parteki asks, isn't anybody from my family or friends opposed to me marrying an Indian? I haven't had like direct opposition to our marriage at all. I have to say that initially I thought that maybe my parents would be the most skeptical of all when it comes to a relationship with an Indian person in India, but to my astonishment and the deepest pride, my parents probably have been the biggest supporters for our relationship, and they have just been so happy for me that I found someone who is such a perfect match to me. Unfortunately, my dad never got to meet Vinod before his passing, and my mom also has never met Vinod to this day because of all these like travel issues, but we are hoping to make it happen next year, hopefully. Also, most of my friends have been very supportive. I only have this like former best friend of mine who completely surprised me with her reaction. Like I said, a former best friend. Our relationship didn't necessarily end because of her prejudices. But it definitely did impact my feelings about her, that from the very beginning she was very skeptical about Vinod. I'm not sure if it was because of his nationality, but she thought that Vinod was a catfish, a scammer online, and even once our relationship had moved forward, she was still thinking that he's not a good match for me, and also pretty much throughout all the years kept saying that she would not come to India even for our wedding. So even though it makes me sad that our friendship ended, I think I'm also better off without people like that who think that they know the best for me. Shalima Zudir sent me a question about superstitions, and she wants to know if Finnish people have crazy superstitions like these. I probably have forgotten many, but now that I've been able to think about this for a little while, we also have a superstition in Finland about if a black cat runs beneath a ladder, something bad will happen, or if you break a mirror, you will have 7 years of bad luck. Obviously, the number 13 is an unlucky number. I think not maybe in Finland, but there are some hotels where you don't even have a room number 13 because that would be so unlucky. And when you do cheers with another person, if you don't look them in the eye, that means that you will have a terrible sex life. But I would say that overall, Finnish people aren't very superstitious. They are aware of these very old-fashioned myths and stuff like that. But they don't really believe that if they, for example, break a mirror, that they would be doomed for 7 unhappy years. Lastly, Calvinism 100 had a few interesting questions. He asks about my experiences as a Bahu when I was in Jaipur with my in-laws. And indeed, last year I spent 3 months alone living with my in-laws in Jaipur. And oh my god, those were quite happy months. Of course, it bummed me out that I wasn't able to be with Vinod during that time because we were preparing for our wedding, but I was just so happy to be connecting more personally with my in-laws, even though we have quite a language barrier. But especially with my mother-in-law, we share such same interests and passions that once we get to the same language level, she will probably be one of my best friends in India, and I love both my in-laws dearly. They are like a second father and mother to me, and that's how I also refer to them as mommy and papa. And they completely respect my values, interests, my time. But I think I had also during this time created this pressure to myself that, oh, I have to show them that I can be a great Indian Bahu. So at some point I did also have some frustrations, but I would say that we have a very good relationship with them. I'm so excited to be showing them all my belongings, and there aren't these traditional issues that many Bahus and especially mother-in-laws have, where you're trying to keep this border between yourselves for privacy or something. But I really love spending time with them and really hope to get them here to live with us for a few months soon, but we'll see about that when it is safe again. Where will I want to raise our children, India or Finland? I would say that the ideal solution to this would be to find some kind of balance between dividing our year between India and Finland. But if I have to choose like the main place for doing that, I would have to base my opinion on where I would want their schooling to happen, and to be completely honest, I want our kids to be schooled in Finland. Oh yes, and that was the last question. Oh my god, I got so hot answering all of these. Thank you so much for all these so many interesting questions. It was so fun answering these and hopefully letting you know a bit more about me. Thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Mwah.